welcome to my channel, and it's your girl Jenny, and I'm here with Missy Renee, and Missy has a amazing channel called Manifest with Missy on YouTube, and of course we're gonna just chat. We're just gonna kind of free flow about anything that comes to mind that's spiritual or Neville Goddardy or building your most, manifestedly amazing life. But before we get into it, really quick, Missy, can you just let them know, like, your website, just where they can contact you for coaching? I know you have a new membership group. Maybe just kind of let them know.
Yeah, sure. So, hi guys, I'm Missy. You can find me. My website is awakenyourimagination.com. And there you'll find all the information as to where to sign up for coaching. My new membership group that just launched literally like a week ago, the Conscious Creator Society. You can find all of that there on my website or at my YouTube channel, which will be, I'm sure, included down in the description below. But yeah.
Very cool. Missy, what's going to be happening in your Conscious Creator Society? Just curious, like, what people can expect.
Yeah. So I wanted to build a community of people that can come together and just have that camaraderie when you're new to this, when you're on this journey, because that's something that I desperately wish I had when I started. It was very isolating and lonely, and I didn't really have anyone to talk to. So long story short, that's kind of the long-term goal. But I also include all of my pre-recorded workshops. I do a workshop every month on a different manifestation topic. And so you'll find that there. I go live for that every month, and you'll see all the previous months, along with live Q&A sessions. I'll be doing that every other Saturday. And yeah, just a ton of resources that I've built and gathered over the years that I want to share with people. And I think it's important as you are learning and growing. So there's a ton of stuff there. It's super fun, and I'm very excited. I just had my first live Q&A for the Conscious Creator Society last Saturday, and it was awesome. It was a lot of fun. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So, guys, I actually booked a coaching session with Missy. That's how I met her. I manifested her through coaching. And I wanted to, the main reason I wanted to coach with her was I wanted to know, I have to say it straight. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. Missy's the go-to girl on YouTube right now, period, when it comes to mastering sort of the 101 fundamentals of manifesting. She is, I'm sure you're influenced by many people, Missy, but I know definitely Neville Goddard is like a huge teacher for you in your life. So I don't think there's a better channel when it comes to understanding the 101s, the fundamentals, and really understanding what was Neville Goddard teaching essentially. It really just gives you like a breadth, a width, and a scope of all that. So the reason why I called her for coaching, which was a really great experience, was just to continue to go a little deeper with Missy on some of these topics. Like, I wanted to kind of just know like her personal experience basically with things like manifesting specific people into her life. For those on my channel, I haven't really dropped this term, but it's called SP, specific person, but things like that. I wanted just to pick her brain a little more on things like abundance, stuff like that. So it's the coolest part about coaching is you basically get to connect on a deeper level with someone that you're fascinated by. So that's why I always recommend coaching.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wonderful connecting with you. That was a fantastic meeting.
It was very fun. I wasn't as dressed up. I think I was in my PJs, but anyway.
Don't judge.
So Missy and I have just we had thought about a couple questions, guys, to kind of talk about, and well, I guess we'll just keep bringing up topics, Missy, as they come up. But I guess the first topic I'll ask is, let me look at my little list here. The first topic I would like to ask is, tell us your idea, Missy, of what is the law? How do we create our reality? How do we create our 3D experience? And of course, I'll put my insight into it too. Just curious, your thoughts.
So kind of the Cliff Notes version, because
Mhm.
I could go on for literally hours. So
Yeah.
the law is short for the law of assumption, and that was Neville Goddard's philosophy. That's what he taught primarily, at least in the first part of his career. And for anyone who doesn't know who Neville Goddard is, he was this philosopher and author. He spoke a lot on the metaphysics, the beginning of last century, and incredible influence in my life and thousands of others. And really, the law just shows us how we are creators and that we are, in fact, the God of our reality. And I mean that in the most literal sense. um, Neville spoke heavily about the Bible and how it was actually supposed to be symbology and metaphor for man's blueprint and man's development and how he can manifest his reality and how he creates his reality. So, um, in essence, it's that there's nothing outside of us that holds power. We hold the power in our reality. And it's through our beliefs and through our assumptions and through the whole scope of, our concepts and how we view the world and how we view ourselves that we create the events and circumstances and people in our lives. That's kind of the most basic broad stroke that I can describe it as, but that's fundamentally what I teach as well. That's what has radically transformed my life in the most incredible ways. So that's what I teach.
Yeah, I like, for me, Missy, I started realizing that I was creating my reality because I kept seeing the same patterns. I don't know about you, but I was like, yo, I have seen this problem pop up so many times. Like, how many times do I have to have this problem again? And then I would look at my friends and I'd be like, have you ever had this problem? Insert whatever problem y'all are working through. And my friends would be like, no. And I'd be like, well, I've had it like 5 times. Like, there was these patterns of positive patterns too, both ways. Positive patterns and negative patterns. And it was unmistakable that somebody was creating that pattern.
Yeah, yeah. And you always look for the common denominator, huh?
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. We're heavily, as humans in general, we're very habitual and sometimes consciously, most of the time not consciously, we are getting ourselves into patterns. And really, that is kind of the first cue that most people have. I certainly had the same experience. I was like, okay, why does this crap keep happening? There's got to be, an explanation for all this. And so, yeah, very similar to what you just described, but that's what kind of shows you that, and kind of the first proof that you get of the law and how it's real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like my interpretation of the law of assumption is that what you are assuming to be, what you're betting on, where you're putting your chips, that is what will unfold some way or the other.
Yep, spot on.
Will unfold. So, and it's easy to look at it at first when you hear it, you're like, dun, 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 this is scary. But the
You're
more,
not wrong.
the more you think about it, you're like, oh, wait. So that means I can put my chips down on something so different. I could like make a decision, like just boom, I'm gonna make a decision about something. I'm gonna put all my chips there, no plan B,
Yeah,
no plan B. Like, and let's just see how this
go all in.
puppy unfolds.
Yeah, yeah, essentially, yeah. And that's kind of the beauty and the most terrifying part about it. Yeah, create everything.
Can you think of, Missy, like one of the first, when you were starting to get into this, the law of assumption and switching your assumptions, can you think of something that you really remember it being a really special moment because you flipped it. You started assuming something new and you started seeing real changes in your 3D reality.
Oh my gosh. Um, you mean like specific thing that happened or just in general
Maybe
notice
like,
changes?
ooh, give us the tea. Give us the tea on something you remember. Maybe it's like a financial abundant moment, or like you reeled in like this amazing friend or person, or like, just something specific. And you're like, I think this might be working. I think I might really be onto something here.
Well, the first time, so when I first discovered the law, I really started diving into the law. This was about 2016-ish, somewhere in the middle of 2016. I started just playing around and testing it with, random things. I would be like, imagine seeing a butterfly, because I didn't really see any in the wild. I lived in the city at the time and it was deeply concentrated, didn't ever see them. It just little things like that, and they would start always showing up. And at first I was just chalking up to coincidence, but it kept happening and it kept happening. And so I was like, you know what? Okay, I need to get bigger with this thing. I need to put this to the ultimate test, and I need to see something happen that, I could never in a million years chalk it up to coincidence or anything like that. And so I started to imagine, well, I decided that I wanted to go to Hawaii. And I was like, at the time, I was broke. I was just kind of drifting through life. I had no idea how this was going to come about. But every night I would, as Neville talked about, I would just imagine as I was getting ready for bed, and I would really start to play around with my imaginal senses, and I would imagine that I was walking on the beach. And at first it was not easy to do, but eventually I started to put more and more effort into like feeling the sand under my toes, and hearing the birds and the wildlife and smelling the salt water, until eventually I got a very, very vivid picture when I would imagine this, to the point where I was certain that I was there. It was kind of terrifying. Well, sure enough, about 2, maybe 3 weeks, well, it was about a month after I started doing this, a month or so, I got a call from a friend of mine, and she had just broken up with her boyfriend, or long-term partner at the time. Well, this was not just broken up, but it had been some time. But she was like, "Hey, so random question. I already have this trip planned for Hawaii that me and my ex were supposed to go on. I don't want to go alone. Will you want to join me?" And I was just like, "Holy shit! Like what? What?" That knocked me out of my chair. I was like, "You got to be kidding me!" And then, sure enough, 2 weeks after that phone call, I was walking on the beach just how I imagined, to a T.
To a T. You felt the sand on your toes the same way. Yeah.
The same, all the senses. It was exactly what I had pictured in imagination.
Yes, I started with little. Now I'm very new to Neville Goddard's law of assumption. That's actually just only been going on the last 3 months or so. I've manifested a lot of stuff since
Yeah, you
then.
have.
It's been amazing. But before, I was more into, I typically I don't like to label myself, but if I had to, I would say I'm more like a mystical Christian. I believe in supernatural. I believe in miracles. I believe in laws of attraction, like what you focus on expands, all that stuff. So I was kind of like rolling in that world. Well, anyway, once I started discovering the law of attraction, which was probably about the same time as you, Missy, like around 2017 or so, I said the first thing I wanted to manifest was bluebirds because I love bluebirds.
Oh,
And I'm not kidding. I saw it didn't have to be an actual like specific type of bluebird, just a bird that is freaking blue. And I saw them everywhere.
yeah.
Everywhere. Suddenly, I'm just seeing bluebirds everywhere. And then I remember I went to a very special retreat in the Midwest. It was like this beautiful, like self love, like healing retreat. And I wasn't quite sure. I'm like, I don't even know why I'm here. I'm in the middle of Iowa. This is kind of crazy. I walk in the door and I see this big, beautiful painting of a bluebird. And I knew like it was just a little symbol to me that first off, what I was focusing on was happening. And second off, like it was just something small that could assure me that I was on the right path. So I started with little things like that. And I have allowed I'm really good at surrender, like, and flow with things. I'm not super tied to timelines. Like, I'm okay if things take a while. Like, that may change. I think maybe as I become, yeah, I was gonna say, as I become, yeah, I think maybe it's because I'm new to understanding really how to manifest. But
Ah,
um, nonetheless, since I started getting more into Missy's content, and understanding, listening to Neville Goddard and just understanding more this law of assumption, I'm noticing that manifestations are coming a lot faster for me. So I feel really empowered. Like I feel so excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, like
yes.
anything I imagine, I could like eventually have in my hand.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes, that feeling is so incredible. Just that powerful feeling. There's nothing like that. And I love hearing when people are discovering this for the first time and really just that feeling is growing within them stronger and stronger. I love it. I love it.
I don't know, Missy, maybe we could tell them too, like, since we both kind of started understanding things like laws of attraction, but then eventually you moved into Neville and the law of assumption, and I as well am moving more in that direction. I don't know. You said in one of your videos, you're like, yo, like my manifestation before Neville was like spotty at best. Like, it was like 50-50, which when you look at life, you're like, all right, 50-50 ain't bad. I'll take that. That's better than like a life of total misery. But,
Right.
like, can you be, I don't know. What do you think? What are some of the differences between being just like a solid law of attraction person versus the person who moves into law of assumption?
That's actually a fantastic question. And because I was a student of the law of attraction for a really long time before I found Neville, um, I would say the biggest, well, two biggest distinctions that really struck me and that I've noticed is first off, the law of attraction puts a lot of emphasis on the universe, right? Um, the universe gives us what we want. We, you know, attract things, and the universe brings them into our lives. So it's kind of giving this like external thing, bringing you what it is that you want, versus the law of assumption, which says that you are the power. Like it all comes from within. It all stems from your concept of self, or, what you assume to be, what you assume is true, what you assume about anything is ultimately what you're going to experience. So if you want to change anything in your life, it's not so much about asking the universe or trying to attract something from the universe. It's about making those fundamental changes from within.
Mm.
So that was the first big distinction. And it was a very empowering distinction for me. Now, I know a lot of people argue that there's not, they're almost one and the same. And there's a lot of similarities between the law of attraction and law of assumption. Of course, it's about creating your reality, but I thought that was, much more empowering and much more direct. Like I had to take responsibility for, because the change was from within, not anything without. That was number one. Number two was there are some limitations depending on who you talk to in the law of attraction community, but overall, I found that there was some things that were a little bit more limiting, especially as pertaining to other people. Uh, like for example, I know that there's a lot of law of attraction circles that are a little frowned upon, but when it comes to manifesting a specific person, when it comes to manifesting for others, whereas the law of assumption says that you can absolutely manifest for others, and you should, especially if you know somebody that is struggling and in a state that's not ideal. You can and should help others. So that was incredible for me as well to hear that, because, the argument for a lot of law of attraction circles is that, you're impeding on somebody's free will and you shouldn't do that. Well, the law of assumption says that, there is, without going too far down the rabbit hole, you can't impede on somebody's free will, because all you are doing when manifesting a specific person or the ideal goal is to manifest the version of them that you desire to see and to be with, the version of them that already wants the same thing that you do, because creation is already finished. And what I mean by that is there are infinite states and infinite realities where everything already exists. So that version of your person already exists. So you're not tampering with any free will. So those are the two biggest things that really struck a chord with me. When I really got past some of those limitations, everything just skyrocketed.
Well, and I think too, just to bring up like patterns, like you guys, you can see in your life the patterns of the type of people in your life.
Bingo.
So for example, I might have a gal, one of my clients that's working with me, and her big thing is all my friends betray me and they're all jealous of me. Everyone's jealous of me and betrays me. Okay, well, and maybe, this girl's like a knockout. She's a model. So, okay, fine. Maybe they're all jealous of you. They want to look like you. But why is it my other girlfriend who's a model, who's just as beautiful and gorgeous, never has that problem? So again, you can identify patterns in what you are bringing out in people, what you're inspiring to occur. And I think that's very helpful if you're trying to up-level your relationships with people. You want, for example, to move, anything goes. This is not for me to impress on anyone what you should want, but the girls that follow me, a lot of them would like a strong, masculine, successful, smart provider type man. I talk a lot about femininity, not because femininity is better than masculinity. I love my masculine and my feminine side, but just femininity is a lot of fun to talk about. It's just one of my favorite things to talk about. So a lot of the women that follow my work and a lot of people that I know are into that. Well, in order to call forth into your life experience, men who are smart, men who are, they value themselves, they're confident, they want to pay all your bills, they want to provide for you, like that takes a certain type of mindset. It takes a certain type of focus. It takes, as Missy mentioned before, you can use your imagination to imagine that those kinds of guys, you being their number one pick. And then how would you move through the world? Let's just pretend you take a girl, her name is Anne, and suddenly she assumes that not only do these type of men like her, but they all want to marry her. She's a 10. She's a 10 to this type of man because for whatever reason, that's important to her. Well, how is she now going to move through the world? She's going to move through the world very differently. And I really want to say, like, it's not necessarily better or worse. I actually have friends that aren't interested in provider men. So she is going to move through the world differently. She may have more masculine energy. She may be okay with working long hours. It depends on what you want, but you're calling forth to you patterns. And these patterns can be changed. And that is what is so exciting, is pulling, and this is something I'm working on. I didn't walk through life trying to be a victim. I'm sure you can relate, Missy. Like, we don't try to be a victim. We just are trained. I don't know what it's society. I don't know what it is, but we think we're a victim of our circumstances. So it's like, well, I never get a guy that pays for me on dates and what spoils me, etc., because X, Y, or Z. No, the main reason that's happening is because of what's going on in the mind, what you're assuming, what you're, imagining, in your mind, what you are affirming. You're going to get more of that. So think of it like a domino, that just goes over.
Very much. Very much the domino effect. Oh yeah. And Absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. It is what we are, you know, throughout our day to day, the inner conversations that we carry, the beliefs that the dominant beliefs that we hold, all of that is going to play a massive factor in what shows up in your life through other people and experiences and all of it, all of it. So it's like we almost, have it backwards for most of us in society. We think that, we are the victim of circumstance and then something happens to us and then we react to it, but it's actually the reaction that's going to cause it to happen again. And that's how the patterns go. You have an assumption or a reaction, positive or negative, that's going to cause an experience or circumstance to happen. You're going to react to it again. And that's how things get cyclical.
Mhm.
Yep.
It's so crazy, Missy, too. I'm sure you can relate. Like when you start assuming different things, like let's say I say to myself, my friends, they totally get me. They always support me. They're my number one cheerleaders. You will see, I'm talking within, days, you will see a shift in the people around you. Like just to put an example, one of my affirmations is that everyone treats me like a princess and a queen.
I love it.
So, and they break all the rules for me. The rules don't apply to me. Everything I want, I get. This is something that I affirm. So, as I'm moving into my new apartment, there's all these rules and regulations in Manhattan. You don't just like show up with your stuff and move in. There's paperwork, there's insurance. Anyway, it's this whole thing. And so I had been affirming for maybe not too long, again, not too long, maybe a couple weeks. I had been affirming everyone treats me like a princess and a queen everywhere I go. And the moving guys got here 2 hours late. And long story short, it was against the policy of my building to allow them to bring me my stuff. I sat there going, I was in my apartment. It was nighttime. I'm looking out at the view going, if they don't bend the rules, figure something out here, bend the rules, show me favoritism and treat me like the queen that I want to be treated as, they're going to have to take my stuff back to Long Island, or I don't know where they're going to take it so anyway, I go downstairs. It was this whole thing. And the people that make the decisions looked at me and said, oh, because they called me and said, oh no, we can't let him in. I said, okay, I'm going to come downstairs. Let me talk. So I go downstairs. They look at me, the people in charge of all this stuff, and go, oh, we didn't know this furniture was for you. If it's for you, then they can go.
Oh.
So they broke all the rules.
Because you're the queen.
Because I'm the queen. Because I'm affirming that I'm the queen. One way or the other, people are going to make sure that I'm happy with what's going on. So I saw that roll out into my 3D, and that's just one of many examples that I could give. Just this funny little sweet treatment that I get everywhere I go. I live in Manhattan, and I might go to Target, and I'm going down the stairs, and a gentleman will come and say, oh, let me carry your bag for you down there, or something. I've had oh, let me carry your groceries. Oh, are you okay? Do you want to go first in line? This stuff never happened to me, Missy, before I started this affirmation and just moving there in my head. And it can be challenging because as you're beginning to empower yourself and you're moving out of victim into creator, you get a little hodgepodge for a bit. You might get a little bit of the queen treatment and then the next day not, and it gets a little, it's a little scary and you have to keep going. But you slowly are turning over your reality.
Yeah.
And it's eventually you'll get there.
Yes.
And you'll have an energy about you.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely spot on. And that's incredible what you have described, because that's really how change comes about. It has to start within first. There's got to be a change of those assumptions and of those beliefs that you carry. If you want to step out of victim of circumstance to creator, there's got to be that internal shift that happens first. And when you do that, you will notice it. You will notice it pretty quickly. And it can be daunting. It can be, when you're completely shifting things around and you're not used to this at all. Yeah, it can be a little bit, you get a little timid about some things, but the more that you are able to persist and the more that you're able to keep moving yourself forward, it's going to embolden you. And it's going to just, as you take those steps more and more, it becomes a way of life. It just, it's second nature to you. And then you don't ever think about how the circumstances can affect you. No, like I affect the circumstances, period. So it is scary at first, but it is incredibly empowering once you going through it and really seeing it for yourself.
Yeah, like one of the things I've been doing over the last, again, I have to say, I love Neville. Is he single? Just kidding.
Yeah.
I love him. And for a lot of my viewers that follow me are, it's interesting. Missy and I connect very well, but probably our followers are a little bit from a different camp. A lot of my followers are more conservative, and a lot of them are more like from a Christian background, like open-minded, but from a Christian background, which I think makes me kind of a unique presence on YouTube, that I'm a big believer in this kind of stuff, even though I came from that background. But what I will say is Neville quotes the Bible a lot, you guys. He uses the Bible as a manifesting tool book, really. And it's so funny, so many things that I grew up reading about in the Bible and loving and hearing, things like, ask and it will be given to you. Things like God is within her, she will not fail. Things like, what your heart desires. I was going to say desires you, but I think I made that up. But something about, a lot about following your heart desires. It's a very consistent theme in the Bible. And I think for me, discovering Neville, and just once we started dating, I started picking his brain more. And basically, I felt that, yes, I felt empowered, and I felt that so many things I had learned were beginning to make sense to me now.
Yes.
Yes, and my life wasn't like, I used to think that, life is hard and I hardly ever get my way. And I used to think, life is mostly pain and then you die. Just terrible things. I used to think like life is just poverty for most and loss, and it was very, very, it was so painful. And now I have such a different outlook on life. What are your thoughts on that, Missy?
That is almost my story as well too. That feeling of, I think there's so many people that can relate to the belief of, life is hard. We just we work hard and then we die. What's, why is there so much struggle and suffer and all of that? I think that is strongly carried within a lot of people, maybe even most, because that is, for a lot of people who grew up in that, whatever experiences happened as, the victim of our circumstances, it naturally depleted any feeling of power or any feeling of I'm bigger than this and I can rise above this. We were kind of just all, feeling like we were kicked while we were down, and life's going to continue doing that to us. That's just the way it is. So that unfortunately is so common. And I certainly had that same mentality for years, especially growing up and getting, my childhood was not easy. And so I saw a lot of crap firsthand that kind of cemented that belief. And it wasn't until I really started diving into Neville and understanding the law that I was able to take a step back and kind of look at everything that I was seeing objectively, and then noticing the correlations, what I was thinking and then what happened, what I was thinking and then what happened. And I was like, holy crap, this really is the doing of the mind. And if you are able to flip that switch and start empowering yourself and like, no, are you kidding me? All the good things happen to me. I am a goddess. I am amazing. I have people that adore me everywhere I go. When that becomes the dominant beliefs, that becomes the life that you live. And who doesn't want that? Doesn't want that.
Yeah. I think
180 changes are amazing.
yes, I one of my favorite affirmations I'm doing right now is I am validated and approved of. I never felt validated. I wanted everyone to validate me outside of myself. I wanted everyone else to tell me I was perfect. I was okay. You know, I wanted people to forgive me. I look back, I wanted forgiveness for so many things I never needed forgiveness for. I was doing nothing wrong. I had so, like just a ton of you know, it's negative thoughts, but also a lot of like shame and just putting myself down and like I'm just such a like horrible worm, you know. I don't, I really, I love my Christian faith. I'm not trying because I've learned so many beautiful things and had so much enlightenment from being a Christian. But that was one thing I took from it that I could do without this feeling of like I'm a worm, I'm horrible, everything I do is wrong, and I owe everyone apologies. And the truth is that rolled out into my 3D reality. I ended up making all kinds of apologies for things that never needed to be apologized for. I only needed to own and validate my own self, how I felt, you know, why I did that, you know, maybe a moment when I acted kind of different or out of turn or angry, like, why did I do that? And so I'm kind of working right now on validating myself, seeing myself as perfect, whole, complete, allowing myself to really feel um I mean, people say, you know, the godness within you or feel that you are God. Christians might say the Holy Spirit inside of you, like really feeling that perfection within myself and validating my life and the things that I'm doing and creating. So I'm
Yeah.
just all about affirmations and, you know, thinking about what you want. Focus there.
Yeah. Yeah, always. And that's really what I try to drive home more than anything. Imagine the version of yourself that you desire to be. Like if you could have anything in the world and there was no restrictions and you could be, do, and feel any way that you want, what would that be like? What would that person, be feeling and expressing through their day to day? And for a lot of people, that feeling of validation and being not just good enough, but amazing, and really taking their circumstances and saying, no, I am the creator now. I get to determine what happens. That is so fundamental. That is so important. So, really, just asking yourself, what would the perfect life look like? And more importantly, how would that version of me be feeling? What would that feel like?
Mm.
Because feeling is everything. Feeling is the secret, because I can't stress it enough.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Especially and I think you mentioned this on one of your recent videos, Missy. You were talking about like the feeling is the secret, and I don't know exactly how you termed it, but you were talking about keeping those manifestations. Like the way I describe it is I think I don't I think manifesting's easy, okay, but what I I think it's
It
easy.
is.
It's easy, but what I do think I'm working through right now, I can't with good conscience say that keeping them is easy. That is something I'm learning, is not only generating these amazing opportunities, relationships, whatever it might be, but
Yeah.
actually taking them and snowballing them, up leveling them, growing with them. I don't know. What are
Yes.
your thoughts on keeping manifestations?
Oh man, that's half the battle. So, and that that happened really for me after uh, I started manifesting some things, and I started, things started rolling for me. But the one thing that I really wanted at that time was my specific person. Um, we had broken up, and then I manifested him back, and I thought things were great. And then he left me again. And I was like, what the hell? And it was absolutely I'll never forget that moment, because that was truly like a turning point in my practice. And that's what really caused me to go within and just change everything that needed to be changed, cycle through all the garbage, really get to the bottom of what was going on and what was causing these things to keep happening. So it's, yeah, half the battle is manifesting something. And then, but a lot of people don't realize that unless you are able to make the shift to a different state, right? Unless you're able to make that shift and then stay there, you're likely going to wind up falling back into old patterns and old habits, because we are creatures of habit. So unless you really get, work towards making this a lifestyle and something that you are consistently doing until it is just second nature, a lot of people do find that they, even if they get their manifestation, even if they get something that they wind up losing it again. And so it's really, 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 I can't stress enough. And this is mainly what I teach, is that you got to go so much deeper than just trying to manifest something here or there, or thinking that it's something that's like a light switch we can turn on and off. We are always manifesting. That's period, end of story. We're always manifesting, and it's always from that belief and that concept of yourself. So unless that is changed and you get out of those habits and you get out of those negative thinking patterns that most of us are stuck in or have been stuck in, it's going to keep perpetuating. And you're going to wind up reverting back to the old state and the old crap that you don't want anymore.
I think, one of the things that's really touched my heart about anyone that's talked about the SP, manifesting a specific person, again, something I haven't talked about on my channel, nor have I ever really tried to do it until now. This is the first time for me. And my viewers know I don't share things that I haven't mastered. So that's just for my viewers. That's why I don't talk about it yet. Until I've mastered something, I typically will stay away from it because I'm still simmering, I'm still growing. But here's what I've learned about SP stuff, is that if you are trying to manifest love in your life, it will motivate the hell out of you like nothing else.
Yes.
Love is so powerful.
Love is everything.
It is everything. It's so beautiful. It changes how you look at the world and yourself. And so originally when I heard about people manifesting SPs, I was like, this is crazy. Like, what? Like, and not for the reason y'all are thinking, because I'm like, of course he's coming back. Duh, they all come back. Just kidding. Okay, but yeah, no, really, the truth is, the truth is that my heart was totally broken open in a new way just to listen to like testimonials of people that manifested back SPs after some of them are like, I didn't talk to this person for 10 years. I have a girlfriend in my life, one of my dearest friends, that manifested. I don't know if she wouldn't even use the word manifest, but I'll use it. She manifested a man back into her life after 20 years apart.
Oh, wow.
20 years, Missy. And she told me, she goes, Jen, she goes, when I met him, this is back in college when we were kids, she goes, I felt like I was struck by lightning. And it was very beautiful for me to hear that, because I thought, that just sounds so spiritual to me, like that the one for you, your personal choice, your soulmate, that when you meet them, you could feel something so beautiful and so intense in your body. So this is so different than saying like, oh, I met a good looking guy and he grew on me.
Oh yeah.
Right? So different. Or, oh, I appreciate this person. And, essentially we have this marriage where we tolerate each other, because the truth is there's not that connection. So I believe love can also be described as a connection. It's supernatural. It's once or twice in your life, it's so special and so beautiful. So what I find amazing about going on an SP journey, and I know it can be really hard for people, they get, it can be frustrating, whatever, is what it pulls out of you to love someone so much that you are willing to go within yourself and change everything that you need to. You're willing to go in there and remove resistances that you've had for decades, some people. You're willing to dig within yourself and step into a space of gorgeousness, empowerment, deserving. I freaking deserve my dream.
That's right.
Like,
That is
it's
right.
this journey, Missy. It's this journey of total transformation. And so I don't think it should, I'm not trying to say people should wait forever for manifestations, but I don't know why it should be rushed.